Hello, today we're going to do something very different. A few months ago, one of the viewers had a suggestion to talk about the state, the condition of how things are. So, this is David that asked to do this type of video, and I did like the idea. I really like the idea. I think there's a lot to it, so I have not made this type of video yet. And to be honest with you, there is so much that could be possibly talked about that it's impossible for me to talk about it in a single video. So I will be potentially rambling a little bit, but it's a big topic. Um, so what am I talking about? The state of the condition of collecting today. So the state of collecting coins, silver, gold. Things change rapidly all the time, actually, I think. This is a topic that I've enjoyed talking with friends that I know that also collect, and it's something that we talk about quite often, actually, because it's, what's new with things. So it's definitely difficult to put into a simple summary, I think. There's a lot to it, and it's constantly changing. When I first started collecting, an expensive, really bad price gram of gold was $20, and now it's well over 80. So things can change fast. I think silver, looking at the big picture, silver really doesn't turn out to be a very good investment in the big scheme of things. It is more for collectible. If you like the art, I think it's a good option. But as far as the metal itself, it kind of remained very stable over the years. Now, a few years ago, was about 8 or so, maybe a little more actually, it did reach almost $45, $50 an ounce for a while, but it's calmed down. It was under 20 for the longest time, and now it's between 25 and 30, quite a bit. It wasn't so long ago, gold was 1200, 1300 an ounce, and now it's over 2500 an ounce. So I'm talking about US dollars. So gold has really gone quite expensive. So gold is definitely something that's easier to buy and hold its value over time, while silver doesn't really do a whole lot. But I do like buying silver because of the cool designs, and there's so much more going on. And if you like art, appreciate the art, it's a great thing. So I think there are, each mint, each collector, it's a small enough world where even a very small number of people can influence the total market quite a bit. I was into collecting micromint, and micromint was a word used to describe an individual or group of individuals that often outsourced the art and their idea to a larger mint to make their product, but got credit for it because it's their brand. And I've been into micromints for longer than I was into PAMP, so perhaps 12, 15 years. I'm less into micromints now, but watching all that happen and unfold was a great experience, and I think it gives me appreciation of the conditions in a different perspective. So a long time ago, there was just a small number of micromints, people trying to make unique art, and today there are so many that you would need to have a database to keep track of it all, and it honestly is hard to keep track of because there's so much out there. The production is a little different today than it was a decade ago. So, especially I'm talking about the US, the micromint market was largely made out of Silvertown. So people would go to Silvertown with their idea on art and pay them to make their design. And today, A lot of the micromint products are actually made by Chinese companies that will flip and turn around the production very quickly. Now, just because it's made in China, it doesn't mean there are quality issues. To my understanding, people that have tested it have reported that the product is good and their items are good. China has a really bad reputation, though, of having fakes. So, especially in the PAMP world, if you think about in the last decade plus, where all the fake PAMPs have primarily came out of, it was China. And a few months ago, there was a round that was a Fortuna style. It's fake. The details on it are all wrong. But regardless of that, as silver goes up, there's more motivation to have fake products out there. So again, the micromints being made in China, I'm not saying they're fake. I'm not endorsing it, but I'm not also criticizing it. But the high turnaround and capacity of all these companies that are using the China-made products, it's incredible. So there could be a political event today, and tomorrow they're already selling the design and product, and by next week it's already in people's hands. So the turnaround time is very fast. Silvertown, from what I've heard in the past, there could be 6 months, a year turnaround time getting your product in queue, just because there's so much going on. So I hope this is the first in several videos that I'll make talking about the conditions of the market. I do think the UV printed silver bars out there are probably the number one thing that would be my my view of what is different and new and impacting everything. So there are these silver bars where one side is blank and there's a UV printed design, and the other side might say 999 fine silver, or something else, or something similar to that. The UV printed bars usually break a copyright, so some of the people that are behind it don't want to even claim credit for it. They're just obviously breaking copyright. They're not looking for copyright permission. And in the silver art collecting world, that's been kind of normal for a long time. From my understanding, even going back to the 70s, that kind of thing happened quite a bit. There are so many designs, and also some of the China-made products. They're eye-catching. They're colorful. They might be enameled, and if the mintage is only 100, so in the micromint world, a mintage of 100, in some ways it can even be high. So 50, 100, in that range, even or less, 25, 30. That's completely normal. And 500 might be even considered a slightly higher mintage for the micromint market. Well, if you think about PAMP, if there was a bar that only had a mintage of 500, you'd go, oh, that's a really low mintage. So it really depends on the conditions and who is buying it. Now the thing is, with what's going on with the micromints, there's a lot of these like Scrooge McDuck bars, but it's not just one. There's like dozens and dozens and dozens of similar designs, and if that's like your favorite character, then you might be buying them all up. But at what point do you go, oh, I have enough of this design? And if it keeps selling, though, they're going to keep making more. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. In the past, when Silvertown was the one making most of the micromint bars, the production costs were higher So the Chinese made silver bars are obviously cheaper to make. That's why they're making so many of them. And the price actually, if you look back a few years, the Silvertown bars under the various micromints um, were actually cheaper than what some people are asking, even as a primary seller of the bar today. So it doesn't make sense where if the production costs are lower, but the distributors and sellers want more for it, they're doing pretty well. Let's just put it that way, compared to the amount of work needed um, in the past. So I think that actually sums up the situation very well. It's today it is very, very competitive. I can say it's always competitive, but as the economy um, gets tighter, as people have less money to spend, the designs get better. To have a design that's a failure is less of an option today than ever. Who can afford to have a design that doesn't sell at all? You need to have a design that sells quickly and moves, and they'll move on to their next product. So I want to say, let's tie it back into PAMP. PAMP's making more designs, more interesting art. Is that a response to the conditions of today? Perhaps a little bit. I do think a lot of what's going on with the UV printed bars or the micromints, does PAMP even care, or is that even their market? Not necessarily. It's kind of side to the market, but I do see the whole thing like this ecosystem where if someone's money is all tied up with UV printed bars, they can't afford and they won't buy any of the minted bars. And if people are really into, let's say some new micromint, they might not be buying the PAMP they used to. So people only have so much money to go around, and as much as some of these things might seem external to what their primary market is, everything influences everything because it's so small. And this has actually been kind of going on for a while. I jokingly have said in the past to others that it seems like today every other collector has their own micromint. And it sure seems like it, honestly. Now, if half the people buying are selling their own product, it doesn't leave a lot of people that just buy product and that's it, because everyone's trying to sell their own product. It's honestly a little interesting in that regard. But there are so many micromints out there, I totally can't keep track of it. In the past, I did kind of follow what's going on with that more so. There are dozens and dozens, honestly, of micromints out there. I think it is really the fact that it got to that point, a reaction to what it does well. So with a person new to collecting silver art, if it's a character they are familiar with, regardless of if it's copyright or official, they might like it. And it's that simple. If this design kind of was eye-catching, they buy it, and it's fun. So that's kind of why it really took off. Now, at what point will people be tired and sick of it? The market can only have so much saturation. It's supply and demand. If there is more available product than there is demand for it, it can lead to like this flood of products where no one's buying. And I even have noticed with certain PAMP product, their prices are going down. And I mean by the distributors. So if in the past it used to go for, let's say, 70, and now you can see it all the time for 60, it's in response to there's more sellers offering it. And I do think the price is going down to a point is a good thing. I think the prices on many things got really, really out of hand. Um, I think once, and I'm not talking about just Pamp, I'm saying talking about just mints in general. If they see in the past that a coin you can get $60 for it, and people are willing to pay that, and then they see, okay, we could easily get 80. Okay, well, let's try 100 now. And if it's going to go for 100, they're gonna push it to 120. And meanwhile, spot really went up and down like $4 or $5 at most. So is production cost really going up that much? I don't think so. And if it is, that's something they should be worried about, because if the products get too expensive, it's going to mean new people are going to get into it, and it's not as exciting for people. And the worst part is if they buy a bunch of overpriced silver, and ultimately it comes down to it, yes, there's a collectible side, but there's a number of people that only think spot. And if that ratio of how much you're paying, the premium gets way out of hand with what spot is, and someone really is in a pinch and needs to sell and realizes that even other collectors don't want to spend this much on it, it's a tough lesson. If you spent 80 to 100 on your ounce of silver and you need to sell it fast, and the most you can get for is 50, and that kind of thing does happen, it's a tough situation. And I think ultimately it drives people out of wanting to collect, because then they got burned. So obviously with limited mintage products, there is a premium that's higher than spot. But if it gets too out of hand, people don't want to pay for it. So I know recently, in the last few years, enamel bars used to be just a few dollars more than the regular bar, and it got to be the point where it was like double. And if it's $100 for an enameled bar, how many people are really going to get back even the 100 that they initially paid for it? The number just goes down. It's harder to sell something, and the idea is that, oh, someone in the future is going to want to pay even more for it, which is possible. But if spot's not going anywhere, and there aren't a whole lot of new collectors, and new collectors have less money to go around because they're paying higher premium for everything, they can't do it. There's only so much money to go around. There's only so many collectors that are actually paying for it. You can get really burned fast. So if you're the type of person that likes to win your auctions and win everything that you really want to get, the thing is, there might be only a few people that are really into that one exact item, willing to pay that much. And just because one person paid it doesn't mean that's the true value of that product. Now, perhaps some of the stuff in this video I'm saying is controversial, and there's going to be differences of opinions, and I'm okay with that. I think, I'm open to hearing what others have to say. Feel free to comment on this. But in the big scheme of things, I'd rather be true to myself and honest with you than to try to sugarcoat some issues. There are a lot of issues that people will occasionally sugarcoat, and I don't know, I'm not really for that. I'd rather be honest with you. So it's definitely very, very competitive out there today. And so the good of that is, I think we're going to see a lot of great designs, and I think even Pamp has to step up their game of producing products that are better, not worse. Not all the Pamp products ever made initially sold out instantly or even sold well. Some of them were bombs, honestly. And you might have noticed if the coin has been out there for 2-3 years and it's now selling for $10 over spot, and the seller has like 50 of them. Can you honestly say that wasn't a bomb of a coin? Obviously it was, and I'm just being honest about it. Some designs, I can also say what happened with the pendants from 2007, 2008 to 2017. A number of the silver pendants, and I'm talking about the silver pendants Pamp made without the bail, those with a little hole in it. Would I call all of those a success? Some to a degree, but it had a very limited market, and some honestly really dragged. And I think that's partially why we don't see as many silver pendants today as could be, because some of the products didn't do as well. So if there was a pendant and let's say the weight is 10 grams and the asking price is 55 to 60, and at the time you could buy 2 ounces of silver Fortuna for that, well, what do you want? Do you want 2 ounces of silver or 10 grams? Now, a collector will buy perhaps the 10 grams, but there's a lot less of those people. And in the long run, will the unique design always hold out? It depends. I think it depends how good it is. So some art doesn't hold the test of time. Some do. If you look at, there was a mint called Great House. The level of details on those bars, the topics, they're pretty amazing, honestly, really, really amazing. And those bars hold their value far better than some others made at the same time. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. And if some of the products coming out today, if the art is very here today, gone tomorrow kind of thing, it's not going to have a demand perhaps 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now. What will people like? It might not be what sold well today. Now, like in the comic book world, hype was like a really, really big thing that kind of moved product. So it could be completely wrong and complete lies, but if there was enough hype about something being awesome, it sold really, really, really well. It sure did for a little while, but if you wait a couple years later and you look, did that product with all that hype, that comic book, have as much investment potential as was claimed? And if it turns out it's not true, that's not a good thing. So hype can do things in the silver world too. If there's enough buzz, if there's enough people thinking this is going to be awesome, thinking that in the future people are really going to love this, but there's not, what's going to happen? Everybody that bought a lot of it got burned, can't sell it, and has to dump it, and perhaps even under cost. I've seen some weird things with Pamp coins where someone would buy a lot of it and in certain cases sell it for below cost shortly later, and that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? It's basically a loss. And perhaps there was someone's thinking that there would be better investment potential than there really was, or maybe came into a situation that realized they needed money fast, so they needed to just dump it. Could be a lot of things. Now, if you look at an even bigger picture, some that were more bombs, given enough time, do recover their value. So the retrofuturism Pamp coin really didn't sell so well, and on eBay for a while, like 6 months ago, I was seeing a bunch of them for $30 and $30 when initially it sold between 60 and 80 in that range. It's like practically free, honestly. But if you wait enough time, that coin will regain its value and potentially even have even more value. So, what a product has in the future can change quite a bit depending on demand. So, it's all about, is there demand for something? The UV made and copyright infringement bars that are all over the place now, there's a demand for that now. People want it, they're going to spend it. In the future, will people want that? That's your guess. I'm guessing there'll always be at least some type of market for it. But if it's so flooded that there is literally 500 different designs, that turns some people off too, because they want to have a nice collection. And if they know they'll never even come close to having their collection because there's a seemingly endless supply of different designs out there, I don't know. I think some buyers are definitely turned off by that. And I should mention, it's not just, my opinions are not just based on my own views, but I've talked to dozens and dozens of people about silver over the years, so I'm taking their views into account too. So it's not just purely me making this up. And some people have told me they're willing to tell me this personally, but they don't like to share it too much because it might offend someone, or someone might get mad at them and might not want to buy or sell from them in the future. So it's understandable. So the video is getting a little long now. I do hope there will be future ones on this topic. If there's interest, of course. We'll see how it goes. And the markets are always changing quickly and drastically. So there is so much to talk about. And again, thank you, David, for the suggestion to make this type of video. I hope you find it useful and others will find it useful. And that's it for today. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one. Take care.